welcome to another episode of Season 3, Five Things. And this is a special episode because we're wrapping up a three-parter that we've had over the previous two seasons. And that is on independent films. So if you go back and watch Season 1, you'll see director Glenn Payne from Driven and The Killer Concept on there talking about independent films for the 90s. If you go back to Season 2, you'll have Michael Levy from Terrifier and Abnormal Attraction, and an upcoming movie called Stream that everybody should check out, talking about the independent films of the 2000s. So this episode, we're going to talk about the 2010s. So as you may know, or if this is the first episode that you're watching for the season, Chetty is on vacation, so I have a special guest host with me, and that person is Mr. Mick Manhattan himself from The Scene Snobs.
What's going on, guys? Dave, thanks for having me, my friend.
Yes, thank you very much for being a part of this. So, right before we announce our special guest for this episode, let's cut to it.
I am inevitable.
We have a awesome guest with us for this episode to wrap us up on our independent films. He is directing an upcoming film that I'm really excited for, that I will let him talk about, and that is Marcus Slabine.
Hey guys, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. Tell us what you got going on.
Right now I'm currently finishing up production for the upcoming sequel to Night of the Living Dead, the sequel to George A. Romero's 1968 classic. So we're working on that and having that we're prepping that to start shooting. So yeah, that's going on, and we have the original cast from Day of the Dead starring in it, which is Laurie Cardille, Terry Alexander, and Jarlath Conroy, reuniting for the first time in now 36 years. 37 years. 37 years, because it came out in 1985. So it's the first time that they've been all together in the same film again.
All right, so let's jump into things. So how this works is we go round robin. We start with our guest. We'll go through our fives, our fours, our threes, and our twos. And Marcus, what do you have at your number 5?
First time I watched it, I just fell in love with this film. I've watched it like 24 times since then. It's just such a good, it's like almost like an Assault on Precinct 13 on crack. I love this movie. I absolutely do. The cast in it is incredible. You got Stephen Lang, William Sadler, Martin Coe, Fred Williamson. I mean, the cast is insane. Plot is basically there's this new drug basically amps people up and turns them into hyper speed, like almost zombie-like creatures. And basically this drug lord's across the street from this old VFW with all these guys who are just hanging out for one night before they take their buddy Stephen Lang out to the titty bar. And what happens is that this one girl's sister gets killed by the drug lord, and she grabs all their stash, all their money, runs across the streets of the VFW and stays there. And then they all try to attack, and basically these old guys that are like in their 60s and 70s are fighting back, and they're like, no, you're not gonna, we're back in Nam now. Like, this is what's happening. And the gore is incredible. The acting, the characters, it's just a super fun, exciting, awesome movie.
Do it. Because you make a mistake, I'm gonna cut your heart out.
VFW is my number 5. I love this movie.
Awesome.
That is a good one. I haven't seen it, but I got to put it on the list to watch.
For me, number 5 is Spotlight. It's just this beautifully written and acted story about the Boston Globe putting their spotlight section onto the atrocities by the Catholic Church with the sexual abuse, and the cast is brilliant. It's probably one of the best independent films I've ever seen. It's
Wow.
a truly fantastic movie.
Is it a heavy drama?
I would put it in the same wing as Zodiac. So it's heavy material, but so well acted, and you're like so invested in these characters, you can kind of get lost in it and really enjoy it.
Drive with Ryan Gosling.
Did you have any idea there'd be a second car?
He said there would be another car to hold us up.
Well, it's not on my list, but it was very close.
So as we know with that film, we have a Hollywood stunt driver that becomes a getaway driver, and he goes to help out his neighbor pull a little heist. But it turns out that the heist is a little bit more of a double cross in that film, and that leads to a bunch of shenanigans. So I don't want to ruin it for anybody who hasn't seen it.
I was actually on a film set before it came out, and it was an indie film called Revenge for Jolly, and Oscar Isaac was on it. And this was before he was doing really anything. He had just done Drive, and he was talking about how different it is and how great it was. And I went to see it just because of that, and I was like, oh my God, like I was blown away by it.
Oh, yeah. And his character in that, too. I was watching it recently, I'd say within the last 3 months or so. And I put the movie on, and I completely forgot Oscar Isaac is in this movie because he's such a likable guy in interviews and such. And he's so unlikable in this movie. I was like, that's right, this is Oscar Isaac. I didn't want to believe it. The whole movie is fantastic.
Not only has it become what I would say the top 5 of an indie film for 2010s, but it's also it's up there for some of my favorite horror comedies of all time, and I think it's one of the most brilliant. Tucker and Dale versus Evil. This is a movie that, whether you're a horror fan, whether you're a comedy fan, it doesn't matter. This movie is a near perfect movie. It is. I've watched this film so many times over the years, and I just can't stop laughing at it.
You okay? These kids are coming out here and they're killing themselves all over the woods.
Oh my God, that makes so much sense.
Even though I know the jokes, even though I know the punchlines, it still works. And it works even more if you're a horror fan, especially if you've seen Texas Chainsaw Massacres or anything like that. It's just, it is such a good satire, but it's also a great satire in the same way that like Shaun of the Dead is, where you don't have to have seen the other films to be able to get that storyline. But if you have and you know the references, it's so much funnier. I mean, this one is like one of those films that I tell people, just go in blind. You know what I mean? Just go in blind. Don't read up about it. It's just a must. I mean, you got Tyler Labine, you got Alan Tudyk, the great Alan Tudyk, who, whenever you mention his name, some people, unless they're like big fans of Firefly, are like, oh, who's that guy? And you can mention about 50 films this guy's in. They're like, oh my God, he was the pirate in the Dodgeball. Like, you're just.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's in something. He's in something that everyone has seen. There's the voice acting alone.
Oh, God, yeah.
I got to agree with you. This movie was made from its characters because, like, you go back to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you're like, all right, they're scary. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's these two characters, Tyler Bean and Alan Tudyk's characters, where they make this movie perfect. It's a great choice.
I can't believe I left it off my list. Can't believe it, because it is such an amazing film.
Number 4 for me is one of my favorite, almost musicals of all time. It's not a straight musical, but it is great. It's called Sing Street. It's an Irish film. Came out, I want to say 2017. It's just about in the 80s, a group of kids who are just kind of, living in Ireland, doing their thing, but they're sort of on the poorer side. They go to their primary school and they get together and they realize, let's start a band. That's how you're going to get the girls. That's how you're going to do all the stuff. So they start a band and they suck and they're terrible. But they have like the one guy who knows how to play each instrument okay enough. And then they go on and they all start playing instruments. They all kind of band together and they keep getting better and better and better. And by the end of it, it's like interwoven this story of like these young kids getting together, starting this band, and then they'll do a performance. Then the better they get, the better the performance is. Like it's like almost like a music video, how well it's done. And it's a great story, and it's a cool little love story between two of the kids, and a good story about friendship and growing up. It's fantastic. I think everybody should check it out.
Now, my list of musicals, just so everybody knows, it's a very short list. I got Scrooge on there, I got Sweeney Todd, I got Rocket Man, and I got South Park. Those are my 4 musicals, right? Those are the ones I like. So my number 4, the first time I seen it, I didn't care for it. But then a day or two away, it just started to, everything kind of settled in on it. And it happens around the Christmas time. It's something that I can watch with my family. It's Anna and the Apocalypse.
Great movie. Great movie.
So that film, if nobody's watched it, essentially what it's about is, it takes place over in Europe, and there's a zombie apocalypse that breaks out, and you have these teens that are going around, and they just trying to survive the day. And the cover, which is really famous, or the poster, is Anna holding up a candy cane covered in blood. So that's what drew me into it. I think why I didn't really like it the first time is because I didn't think it was going to be a musical. I try to go into films without watching trailers, so I get the full experience. And then when they started singing, I was like, oh no. But now I have to watch it every year.
That's a great choice. I love that movie.
It's Attack the Block.
Yes. Yeah. Such a great movie.
This is one of those films that the first time I watched it, I say that this movie's got a learning curve because of the slang that's used. Because I had no idea in the opening bit what these kids were saying at all.
And they get murked, innit?
Get off me! I what?
Well, you're too brave.
But as the film goes on, you start learning all the slang, and you start like being able to understand everything. You know what I mean? But this is one of those movies that just like from start to finish is just go, 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 go. It does not like it. Literally, like within 5 minutes of this movie, stuff is happening, and it just keeps going and it keeps going. And of course, now I think the film is best known for having, in his very first role, John Boyega, who has done incredible films like Detroit, and he's in the Star Wars series, which he's one of the best parts of those new ones, because I'm not a big fan of them. But regardless, the thing I love about Attack the Block is really and truly is the characters. These kids that start off as despicable human beings, like they're horrible, they're just like mugging this poor woman. They're just not good people. And then you go from that scene to seeing them in their home life and who they are and like what they're trying to become and better themselves. And it's a complete, flip. It's like, to me, it's like the Devil's Rejects, where, the first hour of Devil's Rejects is like, you're just seeing the atrocities that these guys are doing. And then after the hotel scene, they flip the script and it's like, no, they're actually humans and they're family and they are a twisted, fucked up family. And then you feel bad at the end. And that's literally how this movie is. Yeah, I'm hearing that there's a sequel coming out and that they're working on it.
Yeah.
And I could not be more excited. I am so stoked. I cannot wait.
And for Doctor Who fans, 13th Doctor Jodie Whittaker is in the movie as well.
Really?
Yeah, that's her who plays Sam in the movie.
Yeah, I love that movie since the first time that I saw it. And like Nick Frost is the perfect complement to that movie as well. He's just great. That whole movie is good from beginning to end.
This one's a tough one because now we're getting into the top 3, and I have so many honorable mentions, but I had to do it. But I went with Green Room.
Holy shit.
I told you to follow me.
You can't keep us here. You gotta let us go.
We're not keeping you. You're just staying.
Anton Yelchin's last movie. It was also Patrick Stewart, about a band who gets a gig at a white supremacy or supremacist sort of hangout, and they witness a murder, and then they're kind of stuck. They got to fight for survival to get out from these maniacs, and it was a really well done version of the people who are stuck, the teens who are stuck, sort of like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre or something like that. I thought they did a great job with that, and well acted all around.
Now, is it a bit of a slow burn?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, once you get to the murder, things gear up pretty fast. But, overall, it's more character driven in the first act, I would say. Then everything sort of all comes together in the second act.
It's definitely a side of Patrick Stewart I never thought I would ever see.
That's legit. Yeah, he plays a really vicious white supremacist in the movie.
So my number 3 is my last non-horror entry into the list, and it is comedy, and it's based on a story of Kumail Nanjiani, and it is Big Sick.
I have to tell you something, babe. I've been dating this girl. She's white. A white girl? Okay, you can't look like you and yell white girl. It's okay. We hate terrorists.
So if anybody's not familiar with that film, it's basically about his life when he was growing up here in the States and how he met his wife and the strict beliefs that his family had from Pakistan. So very good movie.
Ray Romano's really good in that movie too.
Yeah, he is. You kind of forget how good of an actor he is.
I think that was like his first one too, where he acted in that and people were like, oh my God, he's a dramatic actor. Like he could pull this off. Because he was a few of the other ones that he's been in since then. Like he was in this movie, I think it was called Paddleball. And it was just really well done. Very heart-wrenching, good tale about friendship.
I'm torn between this film as well as a non-horror film that I absolutely love. And I don't want to be one of the people that's like, oh, I'm going to do a tie. So this is tough. My number one's the easy one. I'll stick to my formula. I'll go with the horror one. And it's Jordan Peele's Get Out. That film is what I consider to be a perfect script. Same as like Shaun of the Dead is like a perfect script where every single line works. And Get Out is one of those masterpieces that just works on every level. It works as a horror film, works as a thriller, it works as a comedy, it works as everything. And I remember I refused to watch a single trailer of it. I would not. Anytime it would appear on the screen, I'd run out of the theater. And I started doing that. Like I did that with Last Night in Soho because these trailers nowadays, they like to show every single
Yes.
of the movie. And then they have the second trailer that shows everything and the third trailer that's everything. So I'm like, why am I watching this movie? To see like what the establishing shots that you haven't shown. So I went in to Get Out blind, and I will never forget how like I was sucked in right from the first frame. The performances are incredible in it. Story is just fantastic, and easily one of the best directorial, I'd say, debuts. And my best friend and I, we always joke that if my best friend ever got into shit like that, the same thing or whatever, anything, and I showed up at the end, the first words out of my mouth would literally be,
I mean, I told you not to go in that house.
That is the best line, I think, of like, it's just such a brilliant, natural human reaction of two buddies. And I think it's a near perfect movie. Yeah, I just love that film.
Yeah, I can't argue that. It's just an amazing film. Love the sort of twist if you don't see it coming towards the end, but it's just well acted. Everything, like you said, it does suck you in. It's kind of funny because the one scene kind of sucks you in too when he's falling.
Yeah.
But so yeah, it's just an amazing film all the way around, and I like all the actors in it too. All the actors.
They're all incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those films. Like if this was like a horror list for me strictly, that would 100% be number one with a bullet. But it I had to span out just a little bit more, but I did want to put that on the list so bad, so bad. Boyhood from Richard Linklater. He made this movie over the course of 12 years with the same actors, telling the story of this boy's life from 6 years old and then until he was like 18 or 19 or whatever, and he was going off to college. But like, and it revisits at different points in his life. And the fact that he was just able to do this and have, like, because Ethan Hawke plays the father in it, Patricia Arquette plays his mother. You know, they're both, of course, separated. And then just kind of like how he deals and watching him grow up.
I have not seen it, but I'm interested because just filming it over that length of time to tell it in real time is pretty amazing.
Oh yeah, and they cover the gamut of like things that are going on within the world at those different times too. So you're kind of getting that feel for it, like, oh, that's what it was like in 2012 or whenever, you know.
In my last list for the early 2000s, it was Leslie Vernon. In this one, it's Art the Clown, and that is Terrifier. And if you don't know what that film is, you need to go and find it and check it out because part 2 is coming. It is just it's a bit of a gore fest, but where the movie it just excels is David Howard Thornton playing Art the Clown. It's just he's an iconic character that probably should be in the talks to be in a franchise for years to come.
Terrifier is easily one of the best slashers to have come out in probably the past. Yeah, in the past like 10 years. I know it came out not 10 years ago, but even the past 20 years. It's such an incredible gore fest, and it's so awesome. I love it, and I love everybody involved with it too.
It's so true, though. I mean, you know, we all come from a time we're inspired by times with horror movies where it seemed like every month a new slasher was coming out, and they were iconic, and they still resonate with us in some way back in the 80s. But now there's not many new slashers, and Art the Clown definitely sticks out, you know, as one of those that's like, hot damn, all right, we got, you know, they can still do it. They can still pull these slashers out, you know, these iconic slashers out.
What the hell is wrong with you?
What, did you think he was gonna hack me up into little pieces or something?
This is not my type of film. Like, it's a horror film, obviously, but it's visceral. It's like, it's so hard to describe it, but visually, it's one of the most stunning films. The performances are incredible. The music it's just, I'm like almost at a loss of words for talking about it. And it also stars one of my favorite actors of all time, and this film would have to be Mandy.
Oh yes, great choice.
As this film is what I call a theatrical film. This is one of those movies that I've watched it on DVD, I've watched it everywhere, but for me, watching it in a theater that with a giant screen, you know, when half of the scenes are happening and you've got, you know, the cult leader and he's speaking into the screen and he's just like talking like this and he's like looking right into the camera, he's looking right into your soul, and it's just such beautiful imagery. And Nicolas Cage, to me, I've seen so many Nick Cage films, and yes, we love the bad Nick Cage films, but we love when he's great, because Nick Cage, I think, is one of the most emotionally incredible actors to have ever been graced onto us. You know what I mean? Like this guy has so much emotion.
It was my favorite movie of 2018. I absolutely love that movie. That's a great choice. It didn't make my top 5 because of just I think the broad spectrum. In a horror, it would absolutely be on. Even a sci-fi, I would have put it on. Just because the scope and everything they're going for. Great choice. One of my favorite actors of all time. So I'm right there with you, man. My number 1 is a horror comedy. One of my favorite movies of all time, made by one of the best filmmakers I think will go down in all time. That is What We Do in the Shadows. It's a mockumentary of the everyday lives of 4 roommate vampires, just living their lives and the comedy that ensues. Everything in that movie is perfectly done. The jokes, even when they're the most subtle and they fly right past people's heads, are done with perfect comedic timing. The whole thing, when they're sitting there and they have to draw each other's outfits so that way they can see what they look like before they go out to the clubs, it's brilliant because they can't see them in mirrors.
I haven't seen that one.
I love that film. I saw it. Blind bought the Blu-ray, and then finally I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna put this on. I was just like, whatever. I've heard good things, and I couldn't stop laughing throughout the whole film. It's it's a great number 1 pick, and it's definitely it's an original concept. It's such a cool film, but it's just you said it best, man. You really did. That's great.
My number 1, I have to say, is probably the American Psycho of slasher movies. It's on that level of good. It hovers around 2 characters that are slashers in it, and it's Michaela and Sadie, and it is the Tragedy Girls.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
I absolutely love this film. It is American Psycho meets Scream, and if you really think about how it mirrors everything that's going on in society with the likes and trying to get popular and famous, what better way to do it than becoming a slasher?
Michaela? Shit, damn it, okay. I'm sorry. Stay in character.
Yeah, 100%. That's a great movie, man.
Yeah.
I had to do a rewatch of it because I watched it late at night, super stoned, and I remember loving it, but I don't remember it. So it's been on my list to rewatch because I remember being like, I really, really, really dug the movie. I really loved it. I really enjoyed it, and I was like, I got to rewatch it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one because I watched it when it first came out, and I did. I love the movie. I like all the actors in it and such. They were great. But yeah, I need to do a rewatch because I know people who watched it since then off my recommendation, and they gush about it, and I'm like, I don't even remember that scene. So I need to get back and just watch it. I love that though. I love when you can get to a movie you really enjoyed, but forget certain things, so you go back in. It's almost like refreshed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, so there you have it. That is our top 5s in the indie films in the 2010s. It concludes our 3 seasons of films. So there's a lot of great films in this season and the last 2 seasons. We're going to get to honorable mentions, but we're going to talk about that later in a week. So come back and see those honorable mentions. And the most important thing is independent filmmakers, artists, actors, actresses, and podcasters. That's what Nerdbox and Scene Snobs is all about. It's about the indies. So make sure you like this video so that we expand the audience, so you get to support and see up-and-comers that are coming out there and films that are on the radar that you're like, oh my God, yeah, that Night of the Living Dead Part 2, that's awesome. So you want to stay in touch with that stuff. Then shoot over to the Scene Snobs, subscribe to their channel if you're not, watch their videos, and you'll get to learn about a lot of other amazing content out there that we don't cover here at Nerdbox. So once again, Marcus, what do you got going on? Right before we close here, let us know. What should we be watching for?
All right. So one of my film I shot during the pandemic got released on Amazon Prime. It's called The Dark Offerings. We shot this during the pandemic, and it's 100%. It was one of the first films to shoot. We literally shot in May of 2020, 100% through Zoom. I was one of the producers of the upcoming film Stream, which is directed by Michael Levy from Fuzz on the Lens, and that's a big one to be looking out for because the cast is going to be incredible. I mean, you got Tony Todd, you've got Daniel Harris, you've got Jeffrey Combs, Dee Wallace, Felissa Rose, Terry Alexander, Daniel Roebuck. I mean, Mark Holton. The cast keeps growing, and I can't even keep up with all the names, but that's a big one to look out for. Make sure you follow them. I think it's on Instagram, Stream Franchise. It's going to be such a great film. I'm super excited for. And then you can follow me on Instagram, which is my name, Marcus Slabine. And you can follow me on Twitter. I think it's Mark. I think it's the same thing. But also follow Living Dead 2 on all the things, and sign up for the emailer. There's going to be updates somewhat soon, and that's going to be the biggest thing that we have going on is Night of the Living Dead 2. We are blasting forward to get this film coming out to you guys, and it's there's so many surprises, so many things. I'm like so excited to just shout out and tell people who we have, just everything, and it's killing me that I can't. But just know that we're doing everything in our power to honor the originals, but also just to tell our own story the same way that all the other ones did. So it's not, but yes, that's what I've got going on.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap it up. So this has been Dave from Five Things in Nerd Box. Mick
Manhattan from the Scene Snobs. Thanks for having me, Dave, as always. Marcus, it was a pleasure speaking with you. And guys, stay groovy.
Yep. And for Marcus, we'll all catch you later. See you.